Okay, imagine a war where winning isn't even the point. A conflict that doesn't end with a victory parade, but with the entire world order just chattering. We're going to dive into a hypothetical war in 2026 and explore how it could bring a 70-year-old system to its absolute breaking point.
You know, when this was said just a few days into the fighting, it sounded a little over the top, right? Like pure hyperbole. But now, analysts all over the world look back and see it as just a simple statement of fact. What was a prediction became reality.
See, this whole thing wasn't just a miscalculation. It was a massive revelation. It was like pulling back the curtain on a global superpower, only to find that the very foundations of its power have been rotting away for years. And suddenly, everyone could see it.
So, let's set the scene. The year is 2026. The US finds itself tangled up in a pretty disastrous war with Iran, and this isn't just another regional scuffle. No, this is the one. This is the moment that completely shatters every single assumption we have about global power, and what it even means to be a dominant force anymore.
Now, you'd think the story of a failing war would start with, a big military defeat. But not this time. The very first, and maybe the most important crack in the dam, wasn't from an enemy attack. It was an implosion of stability right back in the United States. And this gets us to a classic pattern we've seen throughout history, something called empire overstretch. It's what happens when the price of projecting power overseas starts to crack the foundations back home. These external wars, they don't just cost money. They act like gasoline poured on the fires of division already burning within a country.
9 million people. I mean, just let that number sink in for a second. This is not some fringe group. We're talking about a massive coast-to-coast wave of dissent. And what's really crucial here is that a movement that started over domestic issues suddenly soaked up a powerful anti-war message.
And this didn't just pop up overnight, but wow, look at how fast it grew. It starts with 5 million people upset about things at home, but in just 9 months, it explodes. The war in Iran was the final trigger, pushing that number up to 9 million people in over 3,000 cities. Unbelievable.
So you've got this incredible split screen happening. On one side, the government is totally focused outward, trying to project military power. But on the other, its own people are looking inward, furious about what's happening at home, and more convinced that this foreign war is a huge, unjust mistake. And you better believe the rest of the world was watching all this chaos unfold. America's allies, the ones who had relied on a stable, predictable partner for decades, well, they started to get nervous. And as America looked like it was fracturing from the inside, that huge global network of alliances, it started to buckle.
A perfect example? Let's talk about the 40-year strategic romance between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Someone deliberately leaked a story, revealing that the whole pact was basically a sham. The Saudis thought they were buying protection, but it wasn't real. And Pakistan was promised a ton of cash that just never showed up. The whole foundation of their alliance was hollow.
And this wasn't just a one-off thing. It was like a global chain reaction, a total collapse of confidence. From strained relationships in the Gulf, all the way to India completely rethinking its foreign policy. A single really scary idea started to take root everywhere. That American security guarantee, the thing that underpinned the world for decades, you just couldn't count on it anymore.
Now, this crisis didn't stop at the political level, it spilled right onto the battlefield. This war didn't just break alliances, it completely shattered these ancient ideas about how you fight a modern war. It showed that the very definition of military strength had changed, and probably for good.
The difference is just wow. The old idea from the 20th century was that having military bases all over the world meant you had power. But in this war, those same bases became giant targets, vulnerable liabilities that had to be evacuated. Being a superpower didn't mean you'd automatically win when much cheaper, accessible tech could completely level the playing field.
And these are the technologies that changed everything. We're talking long-range ballistic missiles, swarms of advanced drones, and the ability to hit critical infrastructure with pinpoint accuracy. These weapons just made the old way of doing things, of projecting power, totally obsolete. Your billion-dollar assets suddenly became billion-dollar bullseyes.
So this massive tech shift leads to a terrifying shift in strategy. I mean, if you can't guarantee a win on a traditional battlefield, what do? You change the battlefield itself. The goal wasn't about conquering territory anymore, it was about destroying your enemy's ability to even function as a modern nation.
The objective was brutal, and it was simple. Trigger a complete societal collapse from the inside out.
The idea was to cripple Iran's economy so badly that the government literally couldn't govern its own people anymore.
And the list of targets tells the whole story. We're not talking about military bases here. We are talking about the absolute pillars of a modern economy. Steel plants, power stations, even one of the country's top universities. The strategy was to systematically wipe billions of dollars of economic capacity right off the map.
Okay, so let's put it all together. You have massive unrest at home. Alliances are fracturing all over the place. The military rulebook has been torn up, and you have this brutal new form of economic warfare. These weren't separate problems. They were all symptoms of one giant, earth-shattering event, the end of the world order that had been in place since World War II.
I mean, for over 70 years, the world basically ran on a few key assumptions. America's military was unbeatable, its economy was the engine for everybody, and its political leadership was the final word. This war proved that every single one of those assumptions was now broken.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't some critic from the outside. John Mearsheimer is one of America's most influential thinkers on this stuff. When you hear a quote this blunt, this stark, you know it's not just an observation. It's a painful realization coming from deep inside the establishment itself.
And that's the ultimate takeaway here. The era of a single superpower is over. What we're witnessing is the messy, chaotic, and pretty scary birth of a new multipolar world. A world with many different powers all competing, with no single country in charge anymore.
Which leaves all of us with the biggest question there is. The system that has defined global politics for our entire lives is ending. We know what we're leaving behind, but the truly terrifying part is nobody has any idea what comes next.